It's 1997. Sierra Online just released one of the first MMOs ever, and leadership at Sierra decided the next MMO needs a big intellectual property. Really big. They decide to start making a Lord of the Rings MMO before they even get the rights. The game was set to release for the new millennia in the year 2000. It would never make the date. You see, this was far before The Lord of the Rings became a proven, adaptable franchise. The movies hadn't released yet, and investors determined the $5 million cost was just too high. Another problem? Sierra was dissolving as a company. What was left was restructured to their parent company, Vivendi Universal, who had fought to get the rights to The Lord of the Rings MMO. And they started over, making a more modern MMO. You see, EverQuest had just released, and it changed the MMO world forever. The new goal? To make a Lord of the Rings themed EverQuest clone. Turbine would develop the new game with Vivendi Universal. They were making Middle-earth Online, or MEO, which was still set to release in the year 2000. Composer Chance Thomas was brought on the project and began to read through The Lord of the Rings again, this time using sticky notes every time music was mentioned by Tolkien. After Vivendi took over, MEO was quickly delayed until 2004, then 2005, then 2006. Developers on the project began to think the game would never release. Some even believed the project was actually cursed. What was taking so long? Well, the devs started making an EverQuest clone, but the project lacked direction and quickly grew into its own monster. MEO was set sometime after the events of the Fellowship of the Ring, with some reports even putting it in the Fourth Age. There's actually a lot of contradicting information here. It seems the devs couldn't even agree when the game was to be set. The devs wanted to tell their own Middle-earth story, free from the restrictions of the books, but what that looked like was not clear. The game had a morality system allowing players to build up good or bad deeds, which was then used for PvP and story in the game. Players' choices even granted and restricted access to certain parts of the map. Player choice was huge. When you created a character, you could also create an upbringing and vocations, which allowed you to really customize your character and make it your own. Players used the virtue and vice system to customize their abilities. Players could also write a book and sell it to other players. You could actually have your character become a famous writer, which, as you're likely already noticing, MEO was trying to do a lot of very different things at once. This was a problem. The game had so little direction, some reports say people on the project didn't even know who they were supposed to report to. They were just making cool things, but without that focus, the project kept getting delayed, and delayed, and delayed. Code became myth, and the MMO industry kept changing, and changing fast. Instead of releasing in 2000, it was now 2004, and oh gosh, what's that? World of Warcraft takes the world by storm. MEO took too long to release, and this time, instead of EverQuest, World of Warcraft's release really changed the world. World of Warcraft broke into the mainstream culture in a way EverQuest could only dream of. After seeing World of Warcraft's success, Turbine decides to buy the rights to make a Lord of the Rings MMO from Vivendi Universal. Turbine takes over the project and pushes Vivendi out. the project gains a new focus. Rebuild the game with the goal of releasing a World of Warcraft clone. This time, the focus stuck. With the new focus, the name changed too. MEO was now LOTRO, the Lord of the Rings Online. It would take Turbine another 2 years to build their WoW clone from the ashes of MEO. Middle-earth Online was going to launch with everything from the Shire to Moria. Turbine decided to hold off on Moria and built out Angmar as the in-game zone for the initial release in April of 2007. LOTRO would be the top-selling PC game in April. Also in April, LOTRO was even outselling World of Warcraft's Burning Crusade expansion that had released just a couple months before in January of the same year. LOTRO would go on to be the 6th top-selling game or expansion on PC in 2007. The game has gone on to have 18 years of success and 12 expansions at the time of this video. I hope you enjoyed this look back at the history of the Lord of the Rings Online and what could have been with Middle-earth Online. It's always fun to see the what-ifs of history, and I think it's really interesting how different Middle-earth Online would have been. If it had released before even EverQuest, it could have been one of the most successful MMOs at that time. But because of issues with focus, the project just kept getting delayed, and I think that delay was definitely a good thing because we eventually got LOTRO, which I think was way more successful having released after World of Warcraft. But at the same time, if the original MEO had released before WoW, it's quite possible that similar to Guild Wars and EverQuest, that we would now have a LOTRO 2 or a Middle-earth Online 2. And that would be a really interesting world as well. And so either way, LOTRO probably would have existed, but it would have been really interesting to see an even older version that would be so different with Middle-earth Online, and it probably would have changed the direction of LOTRO greatly as well. It's just interesting to think about those what-ifs. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, and I'll see you again real soon for more content. Till then, peace!